Welcome to The Explainer. I am so glad you're joining us today because honestly, we're tackling what is easily one of the most urgent and frankly anxiety-inducing topics out there right now. Pretty much everywhere you look, there's this massive wave of fear and speculation about how artificial intelligence is going to impact our livelihoods. People are genuinely terrified that some new line of code or a shiny new robot is about to make their years of hard-earned career experience just completely obsolete. Look, it's a heavy topic, but today we're going to step right past the panic, look past all that sci-fi hype, and dive straight into the actual data to figure out what's really happening out there in the labor market.
Okay, let's dive into this. Is AI really taking your job? It's the absolute burning question right now. It's dominating the headlines, it's taking over boardrooms, and it's probably been brought up at your dinner table at least once or twice this week. We keep hearing these dire warnings that artificial intelligence is going to trigger some kind of mass unemployment event. But to really grasp what we're facing, both the threats and the huge opportunities, we've got to separate the media frenzy from what's actually happening on the ground inside these corporations.
And it is incredibly easy to see exactly why that panic exists when you look at the sheer numbers. Over the past year alone, the tech sector has seen more than 165,000 layoffs. We are talking about absolute industry giants here. Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, Meta, all slashing tens of thousands of jobs. For a lot of folks watching this happen, it feels like absolute validation of their worst fears. It feels like the AI takeover has officially begun. But as we start to dig a little deeper into the research, the story gets a whole lot more complicated.
Here is what's really fascinating. Experts are pointing to this concept called AI washing. The prominent venture capitalist Mark Andreessen actually hit the nail on the head recently. He pointed out that a lot of these big tech companies might actually just be way overstaffed. So when consumer demand cools off a bit or inflation starts to really bite, these companies know they need to make cuts. But instead of going to their shareholders and admitting to poor financial forecasting, they use AI as this incredibly convenient forward-looking excuse. They essentially tell the world they're cutting jobs to prioritize AI efficiency, completely masking standard corporate cost-cutting under the very trendy guise of technological advancement.
Now, that's definitely not to say companies aren't experimenting aggressively. They absolutely are. Some businesses are pushing the very absolute limits by creating what researchers are calling dark factories. These are AI systems that operate almost entirely without human supervision, literally generating and shipping things like software code without a human ever even laying eyes on it to review it. But here is the massive catch. Experts are constantly warning that banking entirely on unproven AI in this way carries astronomical financial and reputational risks. AI still struggles hard with reliability. It hallucinates facts, and it completely lacks complex, nuanced human judgment. Moving too fast and stripping away that human oversight can and will break critical systems.
Section 1. The math behind the shift.
And this brilliantly illustrates the reality of our AI future, stepping totally away from those sensational headlines and looking squarely at the microeconomics. The Boston Consulting Group ran the numbers, and according to their data, for the US over the next few years, only about 10 to 15% of jobs are actually vulnerable to being completely eliminated. However, a staggering 50 to 55% of jobs are going to be fundamentally reshaped. So what does that mean for you? It means for the vast majority of us, our jobs aren't vanishing into thin air, they're evolving. You're very likely going to keep a similar role, but you are going to face radically new expectations for exactly how you work alongside these new AI tools.
To really understand why AI efficiency doesn't just automatically equal job losses, we have to unpack a super vital economic principle. It's called demand expandability. It's actually a pretty simple idea. When AI makes a specific task cheaper or way faster to complete, a company doesn't just automatically fire the human doing that task. More often than not, those lower costs unlock brand new, previously unmet demand. So rather than shrinking its workforce, the company expands its total output because, hey, they can finally afford to do more.
Section 2. Augmentation versus substitution.
Let's ground this economic theory and see how it actually applies to real-world jobs. The major dividing line in the modern workforce is really going to come down to this. Are you augmented by AI, or are you substituted by it? Let's contrast two very different roles. Think about a software engineer. The demand for new software and endless IT roadmaps is practically infinite. When AI steps in and helps that engineer write code twice as fast, the company doesn't fire them. They just build way more software. The demand expands, and that engineer's impact is amplified. Now compare that to a call center representative. The demand there is strictly bounded by how many customers actually call in with a problem, right? If an AI chatbot suddenly handles 50% of those routine calls, The company doesn't magically get more customer complaints to fill up that rep's free time. The demand is capped. So in that scenario, the AI acts as a substitute and the headcount for that specific routine role is absolutely likely to shrink.
When we look at BCG's specific labor disruption segments, you can see exactly how this whole dynamic plays out across the broader economy. You've got those amplified roles we just talked about, like the software engineers. Then you have rebalanced roles, like content marketers, where AI takes over the boring busy work so the humans can actually focus on high-level strategy. On the flip side, highly routine work, like traditional financial analysis, is in that substituted category, facing real elimination risks. Which, yeah, might be a bummer if copy-pasting spreadsheet cells was your favorite part of the day. But remember, even substituted workers aren't just permanently kicked out of the economy. With some really targeted upskilling, they can totally transition into the brand new enabled roles that this AI wave is actively creating.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, robots in the real world.
Because listen, this tech shift goes way, way beyond just software and screens. AI isn't just clever chatbots anymore, it's physical robotics stepping right out of the manufacturing plants and into our everyday public lives. Get this, starting in May 2026 at Haneda Airport in Tokyo, Japan, Airlines is rolling out an incredibly fascinating trial. They are literally bringing in 130-centimeter-tall unit tree humanoid robots to join their ground crew. These humanoid machines are going to be right out there on the tarmac, actively pushing cargo and moving travelers' luggage right alongside the human baggage handlers. It's wild.
Now, naturally, your first instinct might be to panic and say, yep, there it is, the robots are literally coming for the blue-collar jobs now, too. But context is absolutely everything here. Yoshiteru Suzuki from JAL Ground Service was very quick to point out that this is not about stealing jobs at all. Japan is currently dealing with a massive chronic labor shortage. They have a rapidly aging population combined with a huge surge in inbound tourism. They desperately need workers that simply do not exist. So these robots are stepping in to take over the grueling, physically demanding work. They are actively reducing the physical burden on the human employees, allowing those humans to shift their energy toward critical things like safety management and higher-level oversight.
Section 4, Trust, Rules, and Regulations. So while the technology itself is advancing at just breakneck speeds in both software and physical robotics, there is a very real-world buffer that is dictating exactly how fast all of this can actually hit your job. And that buffer is regulation. The legal guardrails that governments are desperately negotiating right now act as the ultimate speed limit for enterprise AI. For instance, under the European Union's AI Act, artificial intelligence isn't just allowed to run wild through the corporate workplace. Any AI system used for employment purposes is explicitly categorized as high risk. If a company wants to use an AI to scan your resume, evaluate your daily performance, monitor how you work, or God forbid, make decisions about firing you, they are going to face incredibly stringent, strict legal requirements to scientifically prove that their system is completely transparent, fair, and safe.
And let me tell you, trying to actually implement those rules is proven to be incredibly complex for lawmakers. The original compliance deadline for these high-risk employment systems was set for August 2026. But because setting up these harmonized standards is so incredibly difficult, a proposal known as the Digital Omnibus popped up suggesting they push that deadline all the way back to December 2027. And just recently, in April 2026, major political negotiations ended without any agreement at all. So these significant regulatory delays and constantly shifting deadlines act as a massive speed bump for the tech. Companies literally cannot just replace you with an AI overnight if the legal framework telling them how they're allowed to do it isn't even finished yet.
But make no mistake here, while government regulations might slow down the timeline a bit, the corporate intent is completely locked in. Fresh data from a 2026 IBM study reveals just how intense this push toward an AI-first operating model really is. As we speak, 86% of executives are already using agentic AI. That means AI that actually takes independent action without being prompted. 75% of them expect to see significant AI-driven revenue by the year 2030. But here is the most crucial statistic for you and me. 59% of those executives fully expect many of their employees' current everyday skills to be completely obsolete by 2030.
Section 5, the takeaway.
So, the crucial point is, what does all this corporate data, the macroeconomics, and these shifting regulations actually mean for your immediate career trajectory? Well, it boils down to this. You can't control the macroeconomics, and you certainly can't control the speed at which this tech is being developed. What you absolutely can control is your own adaptability. The true differentiator in the job market of tomorrow is not the AI itself. It's your ability to master it. Deliberate, proactive upskilling is quite literally the only way to not just survive, but to actually thrive in an AI-reshaped economy. Just like the BCG data showed us, the vast majority of jobs are being reshaped, not replaced. You need to make sure you are the person holding the tools, doing the reshaping.
And getting there requires a major mindset shift from all of us. As an example, that same IBM study found something pretty funny. While people are generally getting much more comfortable using AI as a helper tool, only 36% of Canadian employees are currently willing to actually be managed by an AI. That's right, even the famously polite Canadians are firmly saying no thank you to the idea of a robot boss. It just goes to show there is still a ton of friction and deep hesitancy when it comes to actually yielding real authority to these automated systems.
Which really leaves us with one critical choice as we all navigate this massive transition. As AI inevitably takes on more of those routine, repetitive tasks and forces all of us into much higher level, complex problem-solving roles, you have to decide what your posture is going to be. Will you be the one to proactively learn these tools, adapt your skill sets, and firmly dictate exactly how AI fits into your daily workflow? Are you ready to step up and manage the AI, or are you just going to wait on the sidelines and eventually let it manage you? Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer today. Keep learning, keep adapting, and I will absolutely see you next time.